here in a moment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first ever AACRAO Credential Chats. I am just super excited to kick this off for our very first one with the Assistant Vice President for Enrollment Management and University Registrar at Pennsylvania State University, Bob Kubat. Bob, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome, Noah. Thank you for asking me. It's an honor to be your first guest with this broadcast. I hope I do you well.
Absolutely. And, Bob, for anybody who's wondering, why Bob? Why is he here? And, it really, for anybody who's wondering, we did 3 great fall webinars out of the digital credentials community through AACRAO around the state of credentials in the AACRAO community, around the role of the registrar, and around demystifying some of these technologies, CLR, LER, what are all of these things? And Bob was, one of just a handful of unicorns who had registered for all 3 webinars and actually attended all 3. And so reached out and said, Bob, clearly you're really interested in this stuff. Let's get together and chat. And so really excited to just dive in with you, Bob, and just start off asking, what is it that drew you to not only register, but actually attend all 3 of these fall webinars that we did last semester?
Well, I think, Noah, this is a pretty popular topic across the country now. And I think this is a area where institutions really need to be involved in moving this effort forward. And I think AACRAO being one of the leaders in this area with institutions and the information that they provide, the individuals that they have talking about this, all those things interested me in to learn more. What are others doing across the country? What type of information are individuals looking for? What type of leadership? What type of policies? What type of governance? Penn State still is not on solid ground with all this yet. And I know that there's individuals, like Christy McCormick, Mark McConaughey, Brenda, several across our profession that have at institutions that have been doing this for many years. So I was hoping to learn more from them through these sessions.
And I love it, you leading with the vulnerability there and just sort of, acknowledging that Penn State, you like some of the other folks, do not yet have a centralized process. I think that probably gives a lot of folks in our community who may be joining this either live or, watching this recording, permission to say, okay, where we are is where we are, and that's okay.
It is. It is. I mean, this is, when you look at institutions, you look at their mission, right? You look at what they do on the academic side. I think sometimes the credentialing is not as forefront as some of the other areas across the university are. And we have areas such as our student engagement office, our career services offices. As you know, we have 24 Commonwealth campuses, and they're located throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And they serve communities where I think that the citizens that live in that area are interested in this area of what type of credentials could they have to enhance their skills that will help them get the jobs, right? To even help them with moving their education forward. So it's a big effort here, a lot of people involved. So trying to get the attention of the right people sometimes and make it a priority can be challenging.
And just something that I want to key in on there that you said is with 24 campuses, and you use the word serve, and something that in a previous conversation I know you mentioned that your approach to this is really centering that student need and the learner need and serving them, and through enhanced storytelling about their learning achievement. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about that kind of service lens and putting the learner first that drew you to this space in your approach and interest?
Sure. Noah, thanks for asking that question. So I've had conversations with individuals here. Is there credentialing an effort to increase enrollment at universities, or is it a way to serve better our current students? And from my perspective here at Penn State, it's a way to really better serve our students. It's to enhance their opportunities and abilities to really share with others what their learning has been, right? What their experiences have been, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom. It could be in areas that they've done research on, internships on. It could be work that they've done in the community, their experiences with student organizations, leadership, and such, right? So, how do we serve our students in recording all that, putting it in one place, having students have the ability to share it with who they want, when they want, where they actually manage their own record. And I think that if we can serve our students in that way, it's only going to enhance their opportunities as they look for employment opportunities or just other type of opportunities, serving on committees or serving organizations that they can present what they've learned. So I think this is a great opportunity for institutions to really enhance the opportunities and abilities of our students to kind of display what they've learned.
Wow. And you just took it in so many amazing directions that, yeah, because my next question was going to be asking around things you might have gotten from some of those webinars. And you kind of, in one answer, summarized a lot of the takeaways from all three of those
Right.
webinars. And, one of the first places you went there was around just asking questions. And that reminds me of, some of the topics in that webinar on what's the role of the registrar in leading campus efforts for learning mobility? And it sounds like, one of your takeaways might have been just asking questions. The Office of the Registrar and Enrollment Management Professionals really bring a lens that is really helpful as campus leaders are, strategically thinking about implementing these things on their campus that are, role that people in the AACRAO community can play in these conversations is showing up and asking the questions that other people are not going to otherwise think to answer, much less ask.
Right. And when you think about our profession, there's a couple of things that I think about. One is obviously the record keeping, right? We are the main record keepers for the university for our student educational records. So I think that that comes into play here, our role in that. Another role is that we're so involved with academic policies and procedures across the university, right? Almost everything that involves academic policies comes through our office or that we're somehow engaged in it. So we get brought into many conversations. So we have the networking. We know who is who across the university in many ways. And so, as individuals, at least here at Penn State, we have a really great working relationship with our colleges, with the campuses, with the departments, with career services, where they're looking at this really hard. Student affairs, for the student engagement. And I think that what I experience is everybody is really wanting to serve our students well, right? And so one of the roles that I think a registrar has is to bring those various offices together, not necessary to dictate things, but to bring them together, to start having those conversations. What does a governance structure look like, right? What are some of the policies that an institution may want to look at as you're creating this, whether it's a CLR or an LER? So, we don't need to be the leader, but I think we need to be one of the leaders out there across our universities, just because of what our regular day-to-day work brings. And I think the trust that we bring to the university, and our involvement across so many different areas. Again, like I said, especially with academic policies, procedures, and processes.
Yeah, and I think in addition to involvement, we can give ourselves permission to acknowledge our expertise in some of these areas
Right. Mhm.
that's we're really valuable contributors to these conversations. And going back to that, you mentioned networking, and I think that's something that did come up in our How to Lead Campus Efforts for Learning Mobility webinar as well. And you named all of these different stakeholders, and one of the things that comes to mind is not just networking that we do day to day, but also in these conversations, one of the essential ways that we can lead is by recognizing who's not at the table.
Right. Right. And I think that's a very, very good point, Noah, because I think sometimes because Some areas are so defined in how they work, right? For example, I look at our office as a hub with spokes, right? We have spokes out to everywhere. Many offices don't, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But I think because sometimes of their limited realm of what they work in, that they don't realize the impacts that this could have to other areas across the university. So, for example, many areas may not know that our student affairs has a student engagement office, right? And I think bringing them in is pretty important to how we share and document the student experiences through the student and engagement network. Um, there are some different committees across the university through faculty senate that want to be involved because it might be for outcomes or the assessment. And there's a certain office here at the university that helps manage that. And so I think again through our work across university of our touch points with academic policies, academic procedures, systems development. When I think about our student information system, we should have a system similar to that we provide the infrastructure, right? The backbone for these systems. But again, we don't determine what is being offered, just as it is in the academic areas. Let the academic areas or the areas that are offering these determine what is the best for the students. So yeah, I think because of just our reach across the university, we know who should be involved.
Mm. I mean, that just really resonates with me. I love that so much. And, I want to go back to one thing that you said, just kind of centering the role of ACRAO members, in regard to records. And you kind of gave a head nod to learner ownership of their records.
Mhm.
And I'm also wondering if, something that came up in that State of Digital Credentials and the ACRO community webinar was the survey data that's now been published under the Credential Confusions Report, sharing that a lot of ACRO members are kind of still wrestling with, where is the line and the responsibility in some of our offices of, what is an official university record? Is our responsibility at the transcript and everything else is not? Does our transcript, does the role extend to really anything with the university logo on it? And it sounds just through the questions that you're bringing up here that you've definitely been thinking about that, through, you mentioned the CLR, LER. And so I'm wondering, if you have either from your own experiences in working through how you might be implementing this at Penn State or your takeaways from the webinar, just where your thinking might be in regards to, what are records that our offices should be concerned with, or might be the questions might be asking to decide what we should be concerned with.
Well, again, these are good questions that you're asking, Noah. And I think as education evolves, right, as our environment evolves, the credentialing, who would have thought that this would have reached the expanse that it has these days versus the electronic portfolio years ago. And I think as a registrar, 38 years or so in this area, I think that my role is to make sure that the institution is providing accurate records, that they are providing authentic records. Anymore, we get hit several times, during the year with false transcripts, false records. So I think as our role in the academic transcript area to ensure accuracy, to include, that we are making sure that it's an accurate reflection of what the student has learned in their record here. It can also go over to the credentials based upon our experiences working with AACRAO, working with FERPA, working with what should be part of a student record. The Convergent conference that was held at the end of October, beginning of November, was an excellent opportunity, I think, for registrars to come together with individuals from other areas across universities to talk about this. I found that conference to be outstanding, not only the presentations, but all the other individuals that I met that worked in other areas across the university, and the opportunity to spend some really quality time with the different companies that were there. And that's part of our role too, is to look at what systems a university can have or might want to bring in to help move forward the credentialing on their campuses.
Yeah, and for anybody who missed out on that Convergence conference, it was co-produced by AACRAO. They did
Right.
just announce, I think last week, that it's going to be happening again in the fall of 2024. It'll be in New Orleans this year. I have not seen a link yet for it, but it will be happening. And Bob, I promised you in our audience we were going to be in and out in 15 minutes. It goes fast by, and 38 years of experience and expertise, plus 3 webinars of experience learning from us. Really appreciate you, Bob Kubat from Penn State University, for joining us for our first ever credentials chat. Thanks so much, Bob.
You're welcome, Noah. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been an honor.
Absolutely. And to those of you watching live or who see this recording, thank you so much for sharing with us one of your most valuable currencies, and that is your time and attention. And we will see you next week on the next credentials chat.